Hey, this is Malika of Evanston Live TV, and we have with us today, a forum of amazing leaders in Evanston. I feel so honored to be among this group right now, to be having a conversation with this group of people. We have the candidates running for Second Ward, Fourth Ward, and Eighth Ward aldermen. We have the incumbents, Ann Rainey of the Eighth Ward, Peter Braithwaite of the Second Ward, and Don Wilson of the Fourth Ward. We have their opponents, Jonathan Newsma and Diane Goldring running for Fourth Ward. We have Devon Reed, City Clerk Devon Reed, running for Eighth Ward. We have Matt Mitchell running for Eighth Ward. We have Darlene Cannon running for Second Ward. So I think I got everybody. We have so many candidates this election. It's kind of exciting. I know Alderman Fleming used to say, well, if you're not happy with the way things are going, then you need to run. And boy, did people answer the call. It's like overwhelming. I'm hoping I can get to all the candidates by end of February, by April. So we're going to hop right into this. I want to say thank you to our sponsors, Four Sons Fresh Juice, Gabi. Thank you so much. Thank you for sponsoring this event. And we send our heart and prayers out to her. She has been tested positive for COVID. Oh, no. And yes, our hearts and prayers out to her. She just opened her business. And I know that woman worked very, very hard to get that juice bar open, and then this happened. So I know she has a GoFundMe, so please look up Four Sons Fresh Juice. And let's help her through this time period. We love our entrepreneurs, especially our women entrepreneurs doing their thing. And then I want to welcome our other sponsor, Jared Davis of the Black Professionals Networking Group here in Evanston. He works with the Evanston Chamber, trying to bring everybody together. Jared, you want to say a few words?
Yeah, thank you very much, Malika. And thank you for all of the candidates that are here, all the incumbents, everybody that is interested. I really appreciate it. I am, like you said, Jared Davis. I'm excuse me, I'm representing the Evanston Black Professionals Network, a group that we formed a little bit over a year ago, in order to try and foster a new way, some innovative ways of pioneering ways to try and support traditional and non-traditional Black businesses, professionals, and entrepreneurs that are in Evanston. We wanted to create a pipeline and a way for people to connect that had no other way to connect. Some people are here just because of work. Some people have moved here after, for school, and they like it here. And so really they only know the network that they are connected with. So we like to try and foster a different environment, one of inclusion with those people, to let them know that there are other Black people here who are on the same page as them and that have the same interests, and seeing them move forward in their careers and their respective in what they do. So with that, I will also just say that I do appreciate the fact, like I said, that all of you all that are here running, you're doing something that I definitely would not do, especially not at this particular time. You are embarking upon a journey where you will be giving up of your time with your family or on your own in public. When people come up to you and talk about things that may seem very trivial, like light pollution on their block, you have to listen to that. And I applaud you for being, somebody that wants to do that, that's taking on this responsibility, because it's a huge one. So I'm not sure if, Malika, you want me to go into anything else, or if I'm supposed to stop right there or what, but let me know.
That was great. Thank you so much, Jared.
Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you so much for what you all are doing and sponsoring this event. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. So I am Malika Gardner of Evanston Live TV, and I am, again, honored to be here with this group of people. Unfortunately, because of COVID-19, we can't be out and about giving coffees. We can't, go to the Rotary or to Family Focus and do the forums and have the debates like we did the last election in 2016. So it is very, very important to me that the community gets to know the candidates. You get to ask them questions, voice your concerns, ask them what their vision is, what their plan is. I can't tell you how many people back in 2016, they didn't even know the candidates' names. They were absolutely in the dark. They were clueless as to what was going on. And it was because of us doing social media and really getting out and getting people to the forums and to the coffee dates that they got more engaged and more people turned out to the polls to vote for the Evanston election. So we want to make sure that that continues for this election. I want you all to get to know these candidates. And I know I've pretty much booked January where everyone else is trying to fit in their forums. But I want the candidates to just attend all those forums if you possibly can, so that people can get to know you through social media. So we're going to jump right in and get to know who these candidates are. To our guests, please stay muted until we open up. I want you all to ask the questions. This is your forum. Myself and Jared, we're going to kick out the first question. And then after that, it's all about the residents. So please use the raise your hand signal when we open up for the questions, and we will call on you. Or if you can't find it or you're having tech issues with the raise your hand, then please type your question in the chat, and then we'll call on you from there, and then you unmute yourself, okay? But first, let's find out who these beautiful leaders are in our community. Many of them are already aldermen, and some of them you've seen out and about just really doing hard work in the Evanston community. So let's get started with our incumbents. Alderman Ann Rainey of the 8th Ward. 60 seconds, introduce yourself to the people.
All right, thank you very much, Malika, and thank you for doing this. I've lived in the 8th Ward for 42 years. I've raised 2 children here. I must tell you that I think the 8th Ward is in the best position it's ever been in. And I'm running for re-election because I want to keep that momentum going. There are numerous projects I want to continue with, and I think I am the person to best serve this ward. I have an excellent record of public service, and I am not finished yet. So that's why I'm running.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Rainey. Alderman Peter Braithwaite of the 2nd Ward.
Good evening, Malika, all of our residents. Peter Braithwaite, thank you very much for hosting this forum, and thank everybody for tuning in. I've lived here in town pretty much all my life, a graduate of Dewey, Nichols, Evanston Township, and also the University of Kansas. My full-time job is in sales. I've served on city council for 2 terms, 2 of those being unopposed. The committees that I've served on, standing committees, are economic development, administrative public works, rules. In the past, I've chaired the MWEBE committee. Proud to also chair alternatives to arrest with Alderman Rainey and Alderman Simmons. I also serve on the reparations committee. Outside of city council, I'm a part of the Chessman Club as well as our church. So service is a part of my fabric, and I enjoy the work that I'm able to do collectively within the community. My why, and I think it's really important for people to understand that, and to all the other candidates, is, coming off of this election that has been historic. The last 4 years, we've had failed policies, attacks on immigration, a lack of civility that I think has even leaked into our precious Evanston. I think now more than ever, local leadership has an opportunity to continue to create change. I think Evanston has always been a beacon, not only for our state, but also our country. And I'm looking forward, with the support of the Second Ward residents, to serve another 4 years. Thank you very much, Malika.
Thank you. You're welcome. That was more than 60 seconds, though.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Thank
I'll
you.
do a stopwatch next time.
Okay. Nikki, you got the stopwatch going? Okay. And then we have incumbent Alderman Don Wilson of the 4th Ward.
Hi, and again, Malika, thank you. Thanks to Jared, thanks to Four Sons Fresh Juice. It is really hard because I think the way a lot of us like to do this, and even I think the new candidates, is to get out there and have conversations with people. And to me, that's always been one of the most important parts about doing this job. I live on Main Street. I've lived here for some time. I've had the privilege of serving as the 4th Ward Alderman for 3 terms. And I'm really proud of a lot of great work that the city of Evanston's done. I'm interested in doing this for 1 more term because I think that there's still a lot of work that is in process that I've been actively engaged in. And I want to see a lot of that work through to some fruition. In particular, things like safe infrastructure and safe streets. I want to continue the work on expanding housing options, creating affordable housing, and also at the same time trying to maintain market rate affordable housing. I want to and look forward to completing work on implementation of the reparations program that we've passed a resolution on. I want to expand work on economic development, helping our business districts find success and support business opportunities. And I really want to help promote personal engagement by our residents in our community. And I'm over, so I'll stop. Sorry about that.
All right. Thank you so much, Alderman Wilson. Okay, and to our opponents, you have 60 seconds. Let's try to get it all in because we don't have much time tonight. We got some hot topics to cover. I want our residents to get their questions in. So we'll start with, I guess, do I call you City Clerk Devon Reed right now, or do I just say?
You can call me Clerk Reed still, but you can call me Devon or whatever you want. All right, so hello everyone. I'm Devon Reed, the city clerk. I was elected 4 years ago to the city clerk's position at the ripe old age of 24. I ran on a platform that focused on transparency, public participation, and equity. And we were able to win that campaign with over 66% of the vote. And while in office, we have learned that there are challenges deeper than we thought that are pulling at the fabric of our democracy. And so that's why I'm picking up the mantle and running for Alderman of the 8th Ward, because the 8th Ward faces some tough challenges. We've got some great, unique assets, particularly our people and our parks and our community and our infrastructure. But when we have the highest rates of childhood poverty, we have some of the highest rates of being stopped and harassed by police officers. It's time for leadership that is uniquely positioned to take on those challenges. And that's why I'm running for Alderman of the 8th Ward, to continue the mission.
Thank you so much, City Clerk Devon Reed. Okay, next we have on the screen is Darlene Cannon running for 2nd Ward.
Thank you, Malika, Nikki, Jared, and of course, Jersey. Let's see, I am running for 2nd Ward Alderman. You know, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a community organizer, and most importantly, I'm a Black woman. I have lived my entire life in the 2nd Ward, and it has developed me into the person that I am. And I am running on accountability and transparency. I am seeing that there is not accountability and community dialogue. And I'm looking to center the residents. And when I say community dialogue, I mean continuous engaging community dialogue. And I guess one last thing I'd like to say about myself, I am also the founder, one of the founding members of a non-profit called Feeding the Village Evanston, with 2 other born and raised 2nd Warders, and that's Eric Muhammad and Bruce King. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Darlene. Next we have Matthew Mitchell running for 8th Ward.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting and everybody who's participating. My name is Matthew Mitchell. I'm running for 8th Ward Alderman. I'm an attorney. I'm married and have 2 young sons who are in District 65. They attend Oakton Elementary. I am a Ridgeville Park District Commissioner. I also was the chair of the Citizen Police Complaint Assessment Committee, which ran from 2017 to 2018 and was made up of 9 citizens, including Mr. Jared Davis. And we reviewed how complaints are made against police officers in Evanston and made recommendations on how Evanston can do that better. I'm running for 8th Ward Alderman because I would like to see Evanston be a national leader, specifically in police reform and equity. There's a lot of fresh ideas that I have, and I would like to work with a collaborative, progressive majority of City Council to get those done. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Next, we have Diane Goldring. She is running for 4th Ward.
Thank you, Malika and Jared. And I wanted to say also best wishes for a speedy recovery to Gabby. I'm Diane Goldring, and I'm running to be 4th Ward Alderman. I actually wrote this down so I wouldn't go over 60 seconds. I've lived in Evanston a total of 37 years, the most recent 9 in the 4th Ward. I'm running because there is enormous opportunity for Evanston to lead on issues that are facing the entire nation. It's been frustrating and painful to watch as we've been moving in the wrong direction on a number of important fronts, like racial and economic justice, climate change, government transparency, and accountability are just great. Although this is my first run for public office, I have created, led, and volunteered in organizations that serve seniors, youth, children with special needs, and those experiencing homelessness. I spent my entire professional career listening to clients and solving complex business challenges. On a personal level, I am a single mom with sole custody of 1 teenage son. These experiences have prepared me extraordinarily well for representing my constituents on City Council. I look forward to earning your vote. Thank you.
Okay. And then we have Jonathan Nusma running for 4th Ward.
Hi, everybody, and thank you, Malika, and thanks, Jared, for participating like this. My name is Jonathan Nusma, and since I'm running for the City Council position for the 4th Ward, I have 4 E's for Evanston that I hope we have a chance to talk about tonight. E for equity, E for environmental sustainability, E for engagement, and E for economic development. I have been working on these issues one way or the other over the last 13 years since my wife and I first moved to the 4th Ward. I have served on the board of Democratic Party of Evanston. I have served as president of Citizens Greener Evanston, and I've served as chair of the city's Utilities Commission. So I've been an advocate in front of the City Council on these issues for over a decade. And I would like to continue doing that work as the next representative of the 4th Ward on the City Council. We've got a couple of delightful kids at Washington School. They're twins in the 4th grade. And I am working to make our community a better place, not only for my children, but for all of the families throughout Evanston. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to jump right in. Jared, are you ready? I'm going to throw out the first question. Then Jared's going to throw out a question, and then we're going to open it up to the residents. So residents, get your questions ready. Okay. I'm ready to just set it on fire. How about that? How about we have the candidates ask their opponent a question? So I would love to see Alderman Peter Braithwaite ask your opponent, Darlene Cannon, a question. Darlene Cannon, then you ask Peter Braithwaite a question. And you get 2 minutes to respond. Nikki, start.
Sure. And thank you. I think this is a great question, probably for any candidate in the race. And so I would look at you and I would ask, you know, over the last 4 years, outside of attending city council, what have you done to prepare yourself to serve the Evanston the residents of the second ward? I characterize the second ward as the most racially and economically diverse ward. We have residential, we have a very diverse business community with the shopping centers, part of downtown Evanston. So share with us what you've done to prepare yourself and why you feel that you are prepared to serve if you were to win the race.
Okay, great. Thank you, Peter. So outside of attending city council meetings and committee meetings at the city, I have, well, previously I served on Justin Wynn board for about 5 to 8 years. I can't exactly remember when, but I engaged with a lot of different people dealing with soup kitchens and people on the board and getting to know other families and other people's experiences in the community. I have done research about affordable housing, not just simply in Evanston, but across the country, with the hope and the desire that we will expand the options that we offer in our community. I have, over the past year, talked to many business owners in the second ward and asked what their concerns and their needs are and what they feel that the city could be doing right now, even before COVID, to help support them, to help them continue to be successful and stay open. You know, as we know, many businesses have shut down in downtown Evanston, and you know, just trying to engage and understand, you know, what they need and what I could do if I was elected to support them.
Thank you.
Okay. And Darlene Cannon, you have a question for incumbent Alderman Braithwaite?
I guess, you know, one of the questions I'd like to ask Peter, one of the things that I often speak about is Robert Crown and the impact, the financial burden that it will have on long-term on low income, marginalized, working families. And, you know, I, like numerous other residents, asked, you know, why couldn't we have scaled it back? Why couldn't we have reimagined it? Why did we have to spend $50 or $54 million that's going to impact us for the next 25 years? I'm looking to know why, you know, you didn't advocate for us.
Sure. Great question. And I hope at some point that Alderman Wilson, Alderman Rainey will also have an opportunity to chime in on that. For those of you who are teaming in, a project like Crown, a major project like that does not take place overnight. So one of the things that for you, Darlene, and our other residents that are tuning in, we spent years almost. Malika, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I see a lot of screens that are frozen. So that has been a 2-year planning process where we have met with consultants over the years, residents in close proximity. In our ward meetings, we've had discussions about that. I think Crown, although it is not in the second ward, it's in the heart of West Evanston. It is truly a reflection of everyone in the community. It has many users, from soccer, ice skaters. It's one of our larger community centers, and it also represents an asset that was in desperate need of repair. And as you look around this city, including the Civic Center, we have other assets that we're going to have to repair as well. One of the things that I'm really proud of, and I give Alderman Wilson a lot of credit for taking leadership on this, It's probably one of the best public-private projects that we've seen in a very long time. In terms of the operating expenses long-term, there was a huge amount of cost going into the repairs of Crown that I think people should understand. And at the end of the day, once it's up and running, the subsidies, all of our Parks and Recs buildings are subsidized to some degree. That long-term, you will all see that the repairs and the infusion of cash and repair made it an excellent project that we could all be very proud of. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm sorry so much.
Yes, thank you, Alderman Braithwaite. Okay, Alderman Rainey. Please
Yes.
ask Devon Reed and Matthew Mitchell a question.
The same question, or can
Whatever question you want to ask.
No, but do I have to ask
Oh,
them?
ask them the same question?
Yeah,
You can ask them different questions because
all right,
the
because,
background's different.
right.
Different people.
Clerk Reed, in addition to all the city work that I do and initiatives that I've started and been successful with, I would say about way over half of my time is spent providing service to residents. Answering their questions, doing aldermanic requests and providing services and my message board and those kinds of things, phone calls, emails. How do you plan on addressing that? I've watched you be the city clerk, and my impression is that's not your shtick, serving in that capacity. Are you going to be able to focus on people's little problems like Jared mentioned, the light shining in your window at night, having a car towed or not towed, or dealing with illegitimate parking tickets or complaints about this, that, and the other.
Yes.
Some of the really big things. This is not a clerical job. What do you think?
Yeah, no, thank you for that question. And Alderman Rainey, you are actually, I've told you this before privately, that you're someone that I admire, your work ethic and how much you.
I want to know, wait. I want to know, how are you going to handle the job?
I know, yes, thank you. And I admire a lot of the work that you've done in that regard. And so, we have, as you have done, you've kept a message board. I will keep open lines of communication with folks. As I have done as clerk, and make sure that folks have access to me. And also, I think it's really important that, given that the aldermanic position is, it's full-time in many regard, and I know that you put full-time attention toward it, but it's, some folks only have part-time availability for, many folks other than yourself, so full-time jobs. And it's really important that we lean on city staff, right? We have department heads who are, experts in their field, and really our job is to serve as liaisons between the residents and city staff. And so, certainly I've prepared my life to be able to help folks. One, I have a deep understanding, as I'm sure you know, of the various departments and who does what and how things work. And so, being able to connect residents with the right person will be something that's right up my alley and that I'll come in day one ready to do. Thank you for the question.
Okay. Okay, Matt Mitchell, you ran for commissioner I think it was 2 years ago. And as a matter of fact, I supported you. And I, as a constituent of yours in the Ridgeville Park District, I'm pretty shocked that you're going to abandon that position. It's a 6-year term, I think, and you're serving 2 years and now you're going to leave it. Why did you decide to do that? Why did you not want to serve out your term?
So I am a Ridgeville Park District Commissioner. I was elected 2 years ago to a 6-year term. I love Ridgeville. I love the work that we do there, and the work that I've done in those 2 years has been meaningful. I'd like to be a part of the Ridgeville community and leadership going forward. But at this time, I feel that I could do more good as the 8th Ward Alderman. And I think there are other folks who would be able to step up into that role at Ridgeville. And I would be very supportive and very involved with Ridgeville going forward.
Do you plan on serving out, if you were elected to the 8th Ward, you plan on serving out the full 4-year term?
Of the 8th Ward Alderman, yes. And there's nothing that, as far as I know, and I've done some research and consulted with some attorneys, that would prohibit somebody from holding both positions at the same time. That's not, I think I would transition out of Ridgeville if I was elected to the 8th Ward Alderman.
Okay, thank you for that, Alderman Rainey. And Matt Mitchell, a question? Okay, Matt, you want us to come back to you? We don't have.
Yeah, could you come back?
Okay.
Thanks.
We'll come back to you. Okay, let's take it down to Alderman Don Wilson.
Oh, I'm still in the 8th Ward here.
Oh, I'm sorry, Devon, I'm so sorry. Go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for that. So, I got a question, for Alderman Rainey. We're seeing with term limits has become a big conversation at the federal level with, folks like Mitch McConnell, who've been in office for decades. And
don't compare me to him.
I'm not comparing. I'm just saying, well, you guys have been in office, he's been in a little bit longer than you have. And so what is your belief on term limits?
I'm totally opposed to them. People have a right to get rid of aldermen, senators, congressmen, Ridgeville Park District representatives that they don't like by voting them out of office. I think I'm a good example of why you should not have term limits. I've done a very good job in my humble opinion. And so why would I support term limits? I think that question is a very weird question to ask somebody who served so many terms. But you had your chance.
Certainly. All right. Well, thank you. Mr. Mitchell, so your campaign has discussed equity quite a bit. It's one of the main tenets of your campaign, Mr. Mitchell. And, I am of the belief that, if the governor or the mayor came to me and said, hey, Devon, I'd like you to serve on a commission that is leading on women's rights issues, that I would humbly decline to chair that committee, because that is someone who has direct experience with that should be leading on that issue. I'd like to know why you did not turn down the chairmanship of the Citizens Police, the Complaint Review Committee, and ensure that someone who is directly affected by those issues is in that position. So I'd like to know, what does equity mean to you given that context?
So regarding the Citizen Police Complaint Assessment Committee, I was nominated as chair by the mayor. I didn't have a previous relationship with the mayor. I do have a lot of experience in criminal justice and a lot of experience on working with the police on both sides. From the criminal defense side, I have a lot more experience. I also worked with police when I worked as a lawyer for the city of Chicago. What does equity mean to me? It means that the playing field is balanced, right? We live in an inequitable society. We live in a society where certain individuals are given more power and their voices are more heard. I am a white male. I'm a white male lawyer. I recognize the privilege that I do have. And there are times in my life where I sit back and listen. There are other times in my life where I work as a collaborator. I am a trained facilitative mediator. And when I was in the CPCAC role, I saw that role mostly as a facilitative role. And there were 9 people on that committee. And I saw my role as facilitating a cooperative collaboration. And what I'm most proud about of the work on that committee is that all 9 of us were able to come to a consensus recommendation, a 4-part recommendation that all 9 people could get behind. Thank you.
Pardon me, Malika, there's some people I think trying to get into the forum. I don't know if it's closed. I've received a couple of text messages.
Oh, it shouldn't be closed. It should be open.
Do
Okay.
you have anyone in your waiting room? My apologies for interrupting.
Nope, I don't see anyone.
No one in the waiting room.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, Matt, are you ready?
Sure. So Clerk Reed, you have a reputation of not working well with others. Can you tell us who at the City of Evanston you have a good working relationship with?
I have a great, I don't know exactly what you're referring to as a reputation of not working well with others. I think in the clerk's office, we've demonstrated great capacity to work with anyone who is trying to move forward the mantle of transparency, anyone who is trying to move forward the mantle of equity, and anyone who is trying to bring those who are least proximate to power closer to power. What we have not done is, while I am willing to collaborate with anyone on those issues, I will not corroborate when folks are not upholding our FOIA statute, are not upholding our Open Meetings Act, and are denying residents access to our democracy. So if you want to clarify, I mean, if you want the opportunity to clarify your question as to what we've had a bad record, but to answer it even further is, who do we have a good working relationship with? We have a great working relationship with the residents. The clerk's office, again, deals with FOIA, and so we are directly responsible to the residents of Evanston. We have a great working relationship with our partners in various levels of government who we work with to make sure that our elections are running smoothly. And we have a great relationship with anybody in the city who is looking, again, like I said, to push forward the mantle of equity. A great example of our working together with folks is with reparations. Alderman Ruth Simmons, this was the first office, the clerk's office, that drafted a document to make the case for reparations. That was a great working relationship that we had with Alderman Ruth Simmons to push that forward. And so there's one example for you.
Thank you. And Alderman Rainey, how do you address the ethics complaints that have been filed against you?
How do I address them?
Yes.
I thought the last one I thought was foolish and ridiculous and was unfounded. And the other one, you had to have been there, of course, and the electoral board meeting from whence that complaint came was filed by a person who's currently running for mayor. And as somebody said to me, I would have done the same thing. And I think if I had been in the same position today, under those conditions of being attacked for 1.5 hours for a position I took, I might do it again. One of the things you've not heard about that complaint was I made an apology within 20 minutes after the incident happened, which the person never revealed. And I felt that was very unfortunate and very mean-spirited of that person. And you know what? People in Evanston who have filed ethics complaints across the state in fact, I researched them, have been because aldermen or state reps have stolen $5,000, have gone on junkets with city money. They're not for the petty little reasons that people have filed complaints against aldermen in the city of Evanston. And I must say that it is really a disappointment. And it's getting to be the
That's
point
2
where-
minutes.
Wait, I want to say one more thing. Hundreds of thousands of dollars of your taxpayers' money is being spent on these. And I think there's going to be some major changes.
That's
with
2
the-
minutes.
I finished, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Alderman Rainey. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Okay, we're going to move because I want to make sure the residents get their questions in. Don Wilson?
Thank you. So the first question will be for Diane Goldring. Except for when I've opposed release of private personal information of residents in the past, I generally completely support transparency, but I've heard you clearly have concerns about transparency. What specifically would you do differently to make things more transparent?
Thanks, Don. First of all, I would hold ward meetings on a regular basis and let people in the ward know what is going on in the city. We have not had that in the 4th Ward. I mean, you hold ward meetings when there's a development or when there's the budget, but in general, we haven't had a regular monthly ward meeting for, I don't know, for a long time. I can't really remember. So I would specifically let people know what's happening. I would communicate to the residents and let them know about my decisions and why I'm making the decisions that I'm making. There are things that are going on in the ward, and I'm walking around and talking to residents. Many of them don't even know who the alderman is. So I would absolutely let people know why I'm making the decisions that I'm making, and about the things that are happening in the ward. And I also would commit to writing, a newsletter on a regular basis that isn't just a cut and paste of city newsletter. And I would encourage people to reach out to me. I would have office hours is something, where people can make one-on-one, call me on make appointments to call me on a one-on-one basis. So those are just a few.
All right, thank you. Should I ask Jonathan next one?
Yes.
Okay, so essentially the same question, different topic. We've got a number of economic development initiatives that we've been working on and advancing over the years. I've been interested in, transforming that less towards things like helping landlords improve facades and more towards, providing opportunities for small businesses and such. But what would you do differently about the way that we're doing economic development in Evanston?
Thanks, Don. I would make sure that the work we do to promote economic development is supporting the people of Evanston rather than corporate interests, and supporting small businesses. I'd like to take a look at city procurement policies, working with the purchasing department to give preferential treatment to local businesses, especially MWBE businesses, so that we can keep wealth in the community whenever possible. And even if that means paying a few pennies more for a ream of paper, I think that's worth it to keep that in the community.
Thank you.
Okay, Diane?
Okay, for Don first. So why haven't you held ward meetings?
So when I have ward meetings for developments or for specific issues, lots of people show up for those, which is great. when I would have other ward meetings, even for something like the budget, people don't tend to show up, and that's extremely disappointing. So I would have ward meetings and have more staff people than residents at them. So that's probably the main reason. And I think one of the things that we've really struggled with is the decline of local media. So people are really relying on social media and social media outlets for information. And it's a big challenge to get the information out. But at the same time, if you bring, 4 or 5 or 6 staff members to a meeting and you have, almost no one show up, it's a waste of staff resources. It's disappointing, but it's a struggle. It's a really big challenge. And that's why I asked you the question, because most of the ideas we get as aldermen, if any of you end up doing this job, you'll find out most of them don't come from yourself. Most of the ideas come from the residents and the staff. So it's important to get that input. So you have to try to, like I was talking before the meeting started, I like to just get out and talk to people, have one-on-one conversations. And particularly in the COVID area, that's a challenge. But yeah, that's really kind of the long and the short of that.
Okay, thank you. And Jonathan, recently you posted on your candidate Facebook page that you were proud that you and your family had, quote, adopted Jennifer's Edibles, a Black-owned business. Anybody who's been following my campaign knows that I have been working on a daily basis with Jennifer, delivering meals to seniors, helping her in, start a nonprofit organization. What exactly do you mean by adopting Jennifer's Edibles? And have you ever actually been there?
Yes, yes, I have. And we did this as part of a program that I think my wife saw on social media to support local small businesses. And we looked at the list, and Jennifer Edibles was on the list. And so we ordered dinner from Jennifer's Edibles every Friday night in December. So I've been there several times, I guess not as many as you. So I think we can both agree that Jennifer's Edibles is doing some good work in the community. And I wanted to help support that. The fact that you're also supporting it, it just underscores the fact that that Jennifer's Edibles is worthy of community support.
Okay, thank you. And Jonathan?
Yeah, so I guess my first question will be to Don. Over the last 12 years of your experience as alderman, what do you think you could have done better looking back over the last 3 terms?
The first thing I think that comes to mind is there's a tremendous distrust of government on pretty much every level, okay? And I forget who mentioned it, but somebody mentioned that, maybe Ms. Cannon, but something about the idea of community dialogue. We sit at council meetings and listen to people come up and they talk to us, and we're like a stone wall. So they don't have an opportunity to hear what our responses are to those things. So, I think that's one of my big regrets is that's evolved, that I haven't been more engaged and involved in that. As I've thought more about that, I'm hoping that we can do something. I've been just trying to do some research on, the idea of democracy, participatory democracy versus representative. And there's sort of this like in-between level of deliberative democracy, where you have like groups of residents who work on specific issues. So it's not a long-term committee, but it's more of a short-term opportunity to get involved on a specific issue. And those are some of the committee, like affordable housing, landlord issues, things like that. We've had committees like that. I think it's been very effective, but we haven't done enough of that. So I really regret not having engaged the residents on that micro level where they would have that opportunity to participate. it's a big regret, and it's really, you know, played out, you know, not just here, but I think that's it's kind of a plague across the country.
Thanks. And to Diane. Diane, I've seen in your campaign materials and your appearances, you've been very supportive of climate action, which I'm really happy to hear about. I'm really happy that you're supportive of implementing the climate action and resilience plan, the CARP plan. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about what you've done in your own life to make yourself more environmentally sustainable, and also about what you see the city's role in advancing CARP implementation.
Thanks. And you've done great work on climate action. I applaud you for that. You know, in my own life, just like most of us, we all consider ourselves environmental. I don't know, I have a car that sits in my garage. It's a 8-year-old car that has under 50,000 miles on it. So I basically, you know, bicycle everywhere or walk. And as far as the city goes, you know, implementing CARP is a priority. And in order to do that, really, I mean, it's going to be challenging. The goals are ambitious, and they're the way that we need to do it is we're going to have to put some money behind it. We definitely need to, you know, get someone who is solely responsible for implementing CARP, and it's going to be a challenge with the budget the way it is right now. But you know, it has to be a priority because, you know, without climate action, then nothing else is really going to matter eventually. So the city, you know, says it's at the top of a priority, but it doesn't really have it on the website. It doesn't really talk about it in every policy that it makes. So it's going to, just like, you know, in some ways like equity, we're going to have to put every policy through a CARP lens.
Okay. Wow, those are some great questions to ask of each other. I feel like I got to know you all a little bit better. So the next question will be from our sponsor, Jared Davis from the Black Professionals Network, and then residents, get ready.
So, all right. Thank you, Malika, and thank you all for those questions and answers. So, unfortunately, I can't ask this to a specific person. So anybody that would like to pick up on it, please go ahead. There's a defined value gap that I think is at the base of what we're facing right now with racism. And if you're not aware of that, it's simply that the white life is more valuable than the Black life. And there are studies that show that. My question is, what specific element, initiative, program, or tangible, measurable, equity-based solutions are you bringing to the table to directly address racism and or promote being anti-racist for the city of Evanston as soon as you sit in the seat that you are running for? Something that is tangible, that we will be able to see at the end of your term, you can point to and say, this is what I did. Anyone?
Jared,
I am happy.
Go ahead, Devon. Go ahead.
I am happy to answer that question. You know, issues of equity are key, and I'm sure this will be a question for everyone, but issues of equity are key to my heart. You know, I am someone that has experienced both, who survived foster care, homelessness, 2 parents in prison, and for me, making sure that we are bringing folks who are least proximate to power closer to power, and doing whatever we have to do to get there is achieving those equity goals. So reparations is something that you know, the clerk's office and I have been a part of, laying the foundation of making the case for reparations. But tangible at the end, aside from reparations, is really bringing in processes such as participatory budgeting around issues, particularly that Black and Brown folks folks who are least proximate to power deal with. So that means affordable housing and using our collective genius and letting folks have a direct say in how affordable housing dollars are spent. When we talk about reallocating resources away from the police department and away from a punitive justice system that disproportionately impacts Black and brown folks, when we reallocate those dollars, we should make sure that the community particularly Black and brown folks who are disproportionately impacted, are at the forefront and in the driver's seat of how those funds are used. And I believe participatory budgeting is a way to achieve that. And so that's something tangible to me, because we've seen, sorry to hopefully not go too long, but with participatory budgeting, we've seen that the folks who are most impacted by the funds that you cordon off for PB, those folks tend to turn out in high numbers. There's been a study that I can talk about at another point with folks who are interested in Chicago's 27th ward, with the highest voting population in their participatory budgeting were folks who were 18 to 25-year-old Black men. There's only one other institution in our government that I can
2
think of
minutes.
that those folks
That's
are
2 minutes.
So
All right,
thank you very much, Clerk Reed. And let me just for anybody else that wants to answer, I'll clarify again. I don't want a plan for 5 years, 10 years. I want an answer for what you plan to do the minute you are elected to the position that you are vying for. What can you do towards this goal right away?
Malika?
Yeah, yes.
I don't mind jumping in. And so to Jared's question, and for clarification for all the residents, it's what have we been doing, right? For the current council members. And so right now I'm waiting for the 2021 council session to start so we can prioritize rehiring someone for the position. That's something that our city council, along with the support of the residents, we've done. We've hired a person. And when I think of equity, I think it's important, just from my lens, we talk about, and I think Jared, you're alluding to it, like systematic changes that impact the individuals. So there's some things that we have done, and I will not say I, it will always be a collective we. And when I say the we, that means the residents that support their council members, all the conversations and engagements, and eventually the vote that takes place on city council. So the things that we can all take pride in as a community, really quick, is we're going to build on the work of MWEBE, a committee that wasn't taken seriously. Now we have a full-time employee, a committee that used to charge businesses only $100 a day, now charge 3% thanks to the support of our city council. What does that mean? Before, we didn't have a budget. We now have $80,000 from fines from businesses that did not fulfill their requirements. Our goal isn't to fine, our goal is to create like job opportunities. So meanwhile, we have increased the budget to help train our local employment population here in town that actually is working really well right now. In addition to our 2021 goals for the MWE committee, we're going to be really innovative with expanding our business opportunities, particularly looking at the lakefront, what we can do. We've learned a lot from COVID and how to help businesses thrive, thinking outside of the box. And what I mean by outside of the box is outside of their square box that they're currently working, and we're going to build on that. The other piece that I really take a lot of pride in, and I can, alternatives to arrest. Am I done? How much time do I have to talk about that? I'm done?
That's 2 minutes.
I hope I get to come back and talk about alternatives to arrest. Somebody please ask me about that. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you, Alderman Braithwaite. Alderman Wilson.
Thank you. Alternatives to arrest. It's a great thing that we have been working on and continue to work on, and that is something that's going to have an immediate impact on young people's, and I'm picking up when Peter left off because I think it is important. But generally speaking, what we tend to do, unintentionally, is we deny opportunity. That's one of the persistent barriers that we have in place. So I want to continue to provide people with more options as far as like home businesses. So I'm actually already working with our economic development team to open up opportunities for people to do things in their homes. I want to provide more funding for the small entrepreneurship businesses. We have a number of businesses in town that have benefited from our small business grants. I want that to be improved and increased greatly. There's this idea, good ideas don't come from people that went to college. And just because you went to college doesn't mean you know how to run a business, okay? We need to provide those resources and that access to the information, to the capital, and to provide those opportunities. In addition, what we need to do is we need to continue to create, or we need to start creating opportunities for intergenerational wealth. The idea of affordable housing should not be designed in a way that it prevents people from developing equity in their property. Support for down payment assistance, support for maintaining homes and properties. We need to be more robust with that. So these are priorities that I've tried to push forward in the past, and specifically am working on in the present, and will continue in the future.
Thank you, Alderman Wilson. And Matt Mitchell, you have your hand raised for this one.
Thank you. Jared, you know that police issues are very important to me. And specifically in America, Black folks are disproportionately bear the brunt of over-policing, hard policing, and when they get into the criminal justice system are disproportionately, they do more time, they get less breaks. So one of the things that the city of Evanston can do, it's within our wheelhouse, is to change policing. Day one, I think that the city of Evanston should stop participating in the Cook County State's Attorney's civil asset forfeiture. Civil asset forfeiture happens when almost any low-level crime happens. There's drugs involved, there's a DUI involved. The state takes the property, and it's on you to get it back. I think it's unfair, disproportionately affects Black folks, and it makes it hard to live your life. It makes it hard to get to work when your car's impounded, and for the next 6 months you're fighting to get it back. Oftentimes there's innocent owners involved, where somebody's grandchild is driving their car and they weren't even there, but the vehicle or property still gets caught up in this system. I think we need to rethink first responders. We need to have a wider response to our community needs. I think we need to address mental health issues and substance abuse issues separate from policing. I think we need more civilian oversight and civilian involvement in police policy structurally. The way the City of Evanston City Code is right now, all the decisions go right up to the chief.
That's
right?
2 minutes.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah.
We have a question from resident Jerry Hurst.
I would like to yield my time to hear the rest of the candidates ask Jared Davis's question, and then I'd be happy if you came back to me. But this is a critical question that I feel every candidate here needs to answer. Thank you very much.
Okay. Which candidate would like to take Jared's question next? Okay, should I call on someone here?
Can we just talk?
Why don't you call on somebody, Malika?
I had my hand up.
Alderman Rainey?
Okay, thank you, Malika. I'll be very quick. To pick up where Peter left off about the fines from MWEBE, where contractors have not lived up to their promise for providing for minority hiring on their projects. We use those fines to a good extent to provide grants for minority businesses. And that has been very, very successful. Also, one of the things that we have done with the reparations program is we are using the adult cannabis tax to fund the reparations program, which is a really significant move on the part of the City of Evanston's City Council. No other community in the United States of America has chosen to do this. And another thing that we're doing as a community is we are lobbying the state, especially the governor, to release the social equity licenses so that those people who are minorities, who were promised to have cannabis licenses of one kind or another, and there are about 3 or 4 different kinds of licenses, can move on with their lives that they were promised to get at least 8 months ago. So those are some of the things that aldermen and elected officials can do the day they are reelected or elected, or those who get reelected can continue working on. And they are, in terms of wealth, they are very significant.
2 minutes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, anyone? Jonathan Newsman?
Thank you, Malika. In addition to what many of the other candidates have already said, and to address Mr. Davis's question, I, as Alderman, would like to make implementation of the Climate Action and Resilience Plan, a City Council goal, in no small part because the CARP plan centers on equity. And the fact is that climate action is social justice. Climate action is racial justice. You look at the effects that climate change is going to have on our world. Just like with COVID, it's going to be the Black and brown communities and the poorer communities and the marginalized residents of Evanston who are most affected. Heat waves are going to be worse, and who's that going to hit the most? It's people who can't afford it. Air quality is going to be worse, and who's that going to hit the most? Asthma sufferers, or you're 4 times more likely to die or be hospitalized from an asthma attack if you are a Black person and then if you're a white person. Heavy rains are coming, and those are going to, and flooding is going to be, more acutely felt in poorer neighborhoods. So making CARP implementation a city council goal is part of my plan to address racial equity.
Okay, thank you. Darlene Cannon?
Thank you. Well, I think that one of the first things that I would do would put CMP in place so that we could have an independent review board that's not appointed by the mayor to review police complaints. And they can, it could be members of CMP or we elect them. And I would look at the current policies that we have in place and, determine whether, how they impact marginalized communities, Black and brown, and just average working people to see what we can do to improve that. One of the things that I'm working on right now is a survey, a needs assessment. And I would take that information that I would receive from that needs assessment and day one and take that data and see what I can do to help the residents of the second ward.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm actually getting messages. They wanted to hear Peter finish his thought. Diane?
I haven't gotten a chance to yet. First of all, I would echo Darlene's first point about an independent police review board. I think that's critical, one that's not beholden to the mayor. The other thing is that we are members, Evanston is a member of Government Alliance for Racial Equity, which is an organization of municipalities that are concerned with racial equity, but we have not been active in that organization. Everyone has been talking a lot about, policies through evaluating policies through an equity lens, but nobody has really defined what that means. And we don't have to reinvent the wheel at all. And there's other municipalities that have gone through this exercise, and on that website, there are actual racial equity tools, ways that some District 65 has done something similar, ways to actually go through a process and evaluate every significant policy that the city is going to implement, and there are certain questions you can ask that determine how those policies will have an impact on Black and Brown residents. And we haven't been using that tool, even though we have made a commitment to racial equity.
Okay, thank you so much. That was a great question, Jared. I know people wanted to hear more from Peter Braithwaite and Devon to finish their answers. Please, you all be sure to contact them and get more details to the question, because of time, I want to definitely get the residents in. You all are free to ask them to elaborate on what they've already answered. Okay, so Jerry, we're going to go back to you.
Thank you.
Yes.
This sort of picks up where Diane and Jonathan have left off, and this is a question for everyone. How are you going to implement the measures the council is committed to when the Climate Action and Resilience Plan, CARP, was passed? How are you going to commit to implementing those measures?
Who do you want to direct that to, Jerry? Or would anyone like to jump on that first?
Why don't you call on people, Malika?
Okay. Jonathan?
Thanks, Malika, and thanks, Jerry, for the question. I would address that initially by observing that the CARP plan is not so much a step-by-step roadmap as it is a visionary aspiration to get to zero carbon and zero waste by 2050. And so there is some detail in the CARP plan, but it's going to require a lot of work and additional engagement with the community and with the government to put together the step-by-step roadmap that we're going to need to get there. Very specifically, it's going to be very important that we continue our community choice aggregation with renewable energy and make that better than it is now. We, as Evanston residents, at least 75% of us or so, have been getting renewable energy for the past 9 years. We want to make sure that program continues. Looking forward, there's a lot that the city is going to have to do to encourage building electrification and the eventual elimination of natural gas. Good news is that Evanston is not doing this work on an island. We are part of a state that has commitments to renewable energy and energy efficiency. And very soon, we hope programs will be in place at the federal level. So we won't be doing this work alone.
Thank you, Jonathan. And Alderman Wilson?
Thank you. And I generally agree with all that. One of my frustrations on an ongoing basis is that as a community, we tend to do too much relying on things like renewable energy credits. So while we're part of an aggregation plan, what we're really doing is we're using fossil fuel electricity, but paying for the right to say that we are using other energy. And that's a legitimate thing. These renewable energy credits are actually used for great purposes in helping to facilitate the renewable energy efforts in other parts of the country. But what it overlooks is the fact that we are not reducing how we should be reducing. And the thing that bothers me is what we're doing is we're paying for the privilege of saying that we're using renewable energy when in fact we're not reducing and actually putting those renewable resources into the community. So that's a frustration. There are other things that we should be doing, like assisting more deeply or more effectively and more completely with benchmarking for businesses and buildings in the community. We have that implemented in place, but there's a lot more we could do to help the residents and the businesses actually reduce the energy that's consumed. So, until we actually start doing walking the walk, I don't think we should talk, talk the talk. I'm sorry, we need to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. And I also want to continue focusing on doing things like diverting wastewater from the sewers, I'm sorry, stormwater. So we have plans in place and programs in place where Robert Crown does that, Northwestern's parking lot does that, but to continue with those engineering efforts, because diverting that water from the sewer system and not polluting it is also a really important component of preserving our water sources. That's it. Thank you.
Right on time. Thank you, Alderman Wilson. Anyone else want to take that question? Shall we move on? And Rainey?
Yeah, I'm happy to take, go ahead, Alderman Rainey.
Alderman Rainey?
Well, one of the things that most people probably don't know, the candidates know, but the average citizen probably doesn't know, is that we've declared that by 2050, we're going to be carbon neutral. And one of the interesting things that the city of Evanston has done is we have refused to sign a franchise agreement with Commonwealth Edison. And 10 years ago, that would have been a radical move on the city's part. And so what we are doing right now, and I'm on the franchise committee along with Alderman Revelle and some very brilliant utility brains, we are negotiating with Commonwealth Edison for some very special energy saving conditions. And I'm not able to say what they are at the moment because we haven't gone to the table for our final negotiation meeting. But even just changing out our street lights is going to make a very big difference. And so it's not that complicated, and we're doing all sorts of very important things to bring down our usage. And I think the business with the natural gas is very, very important. And I think more and more developers are just not using gas in their buildings. So those are the kinds of things that are very important. The city is going to, we're going to smart cars more. So when you see these purchases of vehicles, keep an eye out to see if we're using electric cars. Very important.
Thank you, Alderman Rainey. And City Clerk Devon Reed.
Yeah, so I appreciate especially the comments of Alderman Wilson, because I do think that we need to end our reliance on renewable energy credits. If you look at our, from 2005 to now, the brunt of the reduction from about a little bit over 1 million metric tons of carbon was produced in 2005, and now we're just down to about 900,000 metric tons, and the brunt of that has been through the purchase of RECs. And I think what Alderman Rainey mentioned is important. That the city has entered to this agreement with ComEd, and it does incentivize the buildings that, like the fire department, that were profit making. Now we aren't. We used to get free electricity, but now we have to pay for it, and they have to get permits in order to do certain work within the city, and that makes us a bit more conscious. But when we think about what are the top producers of carbon in our city and throughout the world, well, the top 3 producers are: number 1, buildings; number 2, agriculture, particularly beef agriculture; and number 3, cars, traffic. And so, I think it's important to really look at those categories. What can we do to reduce those? So as far as buildings, we know our top carbon reducers are Northwestern. They're doing a good job of trying to purchase solar energy. We need to encourage that. The 2 hospitals, I think we need to hold them more accountable and get a benchmarking ordinance that tells us what they are doing currently, or what they're producing currently, and publicize that to make sure folks know how much carbon is being released by particular buildings. Rotary is doing a good job, ETHS District 65. And then the downtown high rises, again, really key for the benchmarking ordinance to make sure that we're bringing down our carbon use. I think Another really important thing is our zoning laws. Our zoning laws are key to undoing both our racial disparities in the past, but also tackling our environmental issues. So by having more mixed use development, by having more mixed use development, we can really increase density lightly throughout the city and increase walkability and ensure that we're
2
meeting
minutes.
our environmental goals. Thank you.
Thank you, City Clerk Reed. Okay, did
And
anyone?
our bike lanes are positive too.
I think Jonathan Newsman had his hand up for a while now.
Okay.
Thank you, Jared. Yeah, I just wanted to circle back on a comment that Alderman Wilson made and a comment that Alderman Rainey made. I agree with Alderman Wilson that moving beyond Rex is important. That's what I alluded to when I said that we need to improve our current program. I think doing everything we can to encourage the local generation of renewable electricity, which basically means solar panels. We need to do everything we can to promote that here in Evanston. Looking at Robert Crown, I think that was a missed opportunity, or maybe it remains yet an opportunity. A huge big roof there with no shade, perfect for solar panels, and there are ways to get that done that will not cost the city any money up front and would save the city money throughout the length of the financing, the life of the building. And specific to Alderman Rainey's comment about the franchise agreement committee, I'm glad that you're reporting favorably on the 2 representatives from the Utilities Commission, because I was the one who nominated them to that task force when I was chair of the Utilities Commission. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Kim Holmes has a question.
I do.
Kim, we can't hear you.
Malika, I also wanted to finish, and I want to answer Jerry's question as well.
Okay, I didn't see your hand.
Am I okay now?
Yeah, Kim, we can hear you. I'll come back to you, Darlene.
We're good? Okay. Happy New Year. I'm sorry, technical difficulties. So many questions, so many candidates. First, I really just want to throw out there, someone mentioned community engagement, which I think is so important. The 3 candidates who are, not the 3 candidates, the 3 current aldermen have been so accessible, have supported so many programs and projects surrounding community engagement, because it's really about more than just ward meetings. It's really about just being out there, showing up and supporting things. So just food for thought for the candidates who are running. What is your stand on community engagement and what do you plan to do? I have some students who would love to interview the candidates. So if you want to reach out to me, we'd have those interviews up on social media in the next couple of weeks. So if you're interested in a student interviewing you, please reach out. But in the meantime, I will ask I'm in the 2nd ward. I grew up in the 5th ward and I've been in the 2nd ward for 25 years. So longtime resident. So I'm gonna ask the people who are running in the 2nd ward. Hello?
We hear you.
Okay. In the 2nd ward, Darlene, you talked about affordable housing. And I'm just a little unclear where you stand on affordable housing. I know I saw some things when the How project was going up and, you were opposed to it. I had questions. I'm not running for alderman, but, and that you really were not, it seemed like you weren't, behind the movement and behind affordable housing. And I really just kind of want to see where you're at on that.
Okay.
Clear.
Yes. So yes, I did speak out against the How project because I am about transparency and accountability. And when it's brought to us as affordable housing, and then it turns out to be supportive housing, that's, those are 2 different things, first of all. Second of all, when I talk about community engagement, we should have a choice and be a part of the conversation about what's going to impact our neighborhoods, our communities. You know, everyone deserves housing, but we need to be prioritizing Evanston residents and Evanston families. And at some point in the beginning, we should have been allowed to be brought to the table and discuss it and get our feedback and our concerns. So yes, housing is a requirement. It should be a requirement, but also engaging with the community, showing us respect and allowing us to voice our concerns. We often in this city allow outsiders to come in and dictate to us what they want to build, not what we need or even what citizens desire for or envision for their neighborhoods, but we go by what developers want to do. And it's time that we change that.
Okay, and just so I'm clear though, but you are for affordable housing, but you just didn't.
I have been advocating for affordable housing since then. That was not affordable housing, that is supportive housing. And yes, I am for affordable housing and supportive housing for everyone. It is a right, just like having healthcare is a right.
Right. Okay.
Can I take a try at the broader question that Ms. Holmes asked about community engagement?
Oh, sure. And you know what? And I don't want to take up a whole bunch of time.
Yeah.
But that is going to be the big question from the students. So if people are interested and want to respond, but go ahead. But please reach out to me. I'll put my email in the chat in the next couple of weeks, though, because we want to get them out before you guys run the primaries.
Malika, is it okay if I just respond to that? Because I think there are two issues that I'd love to dissect and make it clear to the residents. And although Kim is from the second ward, Darlene's running for the second ward, I think this is a larger community issue that I just want to unpack a little bit. So in terms of community engagement, Kim, and this speaks to her response, I do ward meetings, I do neighborhood meetings, I do one-on-one meetings, and even like special topic meetings, for example, affordable housing. The project that she's specifically talking about, we literally had 7 community meetings on that particular project. And we continue to have updates at the second ward. Now, the difference between, being an advocate or agitator or anyone that speaks out on issues versus serving is sometimes you don't always have a choice of what comes into your lap. And you can't run the city on a no. And I'll say that again, you can't run the city on a no. And we've all had experiences where we've actually had to make the best of whatever the situation is. And I think that Howe project is a real perfect example. There were neighbors that were really concerned that their property values were going to be impacted by that project. So whether you want to call it affordable or accessory, the other words, that project serves as an opportunity for people who are not at the full income level. Their AMI is below, I think it was 60% or somewhere around there, that they now have housing. And we've worked really hard in our community. In fact, 2 blocks away from that, in the same community, we had a totally different development where the average house may have been around 300 to 400. This development created new projects that was, I think it sold for somewhere around 600. Kim, you can fact check me, $600,000. So let's think about that. Within a 2-block period, 2-block neighborhood, you had a affordable housing project, and you had a project that I had residents really concerned about being priced out. And that's just Evanston, that's 4 by 7.
2 minutes.
I think it's important that I would close it by saying your statement that you cannot argue was
2 minutes.
ready to set.
I think Peter froze. Okay, you all please be sure to reach out to the candidates to have them elaborate on their responses to your questions. I want
It's been documented. All
Okay.
right, I'll stop. Thank you. Thank you.
We didn't hear you, Peter. You had froze. Ladies and gentlemen, we're
I think my last statement is just, thank you. I'll conclude by saying that everybody wants affordable housing. Nobody wants it in their backyard. And so when you're put in that position in the leadership, our goal is to make sure that we educate our community to the best of our ability. I made it clear that we had over 7 meetings where we continuously educated and dialogued. And in that dialogue, as we do all the time, the community really had an opportunity to reshape that project, and hopefully it'll continue to serve as a home for
Well
many
past 2
residents.
minutes.
I'm sorry.
All right, thank you, Alderman Braithwaite.
Can I just finish up a point that Alderman Braithwaite kind of alluded to, and that's about the backyard part. And that's
Yeah.
a really important thing that we all need to keep in mind, because as we have conversations in the community, one of the, as aldermen, we have a number of privileges, but one of the privileges we have is we have what I call the access to the first draft of people's, arguments. So, building's going to come to town. The first version I typically hear is too big, changes the character of the neighborhood. So that inevitably evolves to, and often with the same people, it stops being too big, changes the character of the neighborhood, because those aren't the right answers in Evanston. So that changes to, it doesn't have enough affordable housing. It doesn't have this, that, or the other thing. So, what we all see on a regular basis is sort of this constant push to, not in my backyard. I don't want those people in my neighborhood. I don't want, I've heard people referred to as transients, whatever it is. That is a persistent narrative that we are constantly fighting against. So when you look at these things, some buildings get approved, some don't, but the idea is out there with people that don't want any building. If you force the council to make the requirements so stringent, if you do that, then the building just won't come. And that's a victory to the people that don't want any buildings. So you have to be mindful of and respect the fact that there's a process to find the balance. So in finding that balance, you can't eliminate the entire thing, because then you're not going to get any housing. So thanks for letting me fill that in.
Malika, I just had one more comment. If I can.
You want to respond to the affordable housing?
Yes, I want to respond just briefly. And
wait, hold on. We are over time. We're supposed to end at 8:30. We're at 8:33. If it's okay with everyone else, we can keep going. It's up to you all. I want to respect everyone's time here. Alderman Rainey.
Well, I mean, Ms. Cannon was first, but I would like to say something too about this.
I'd also like to say something about affordable housing as well.
Okay, well, it looks like we're gonna go over, so Darlene?
Okay, so when the neighbors who were within 500 feet were notified about it, the building was brought down to 3 stories. We were told by the alderman, be glad that that they could have made it 5 stories, that there's nothing you can do about it, and you're gonna have to learn to deal with it. I heard other alder persons, such as Don Wilson, saying that that's a perfect
And
place
I'm
to
sorry,
build
Malika,
it.
I'm only going to interrupt once. I think if you're going to say something,
Over there,
you should quote what's been in the paper.
equity and how we're using an equity lens. Where was the equity lens when we talk about the impact that it was going to have on that community? Where, this community where the houses were, let's see, they're maybe $250,000 to $300,000. Where was that equity lens then? Thank you. And I don't talk over people.
Okay. Malika, may I go?
Yes,
there is a project going up on Howard Street. You've heard about it, I'm sure. A 60-unit, all affordable senior housing. And it is on the property that was at one time the old Dairy Queen, and then a giant parking lot next to the Dairy Queen going west. It's 999 Howard to 1015 Howard. And that project was brought to me by the developer, who is absolutely devoted to providing the neighbors with information. And we had more meetings with the neighbors than, probably anybody wanted to attend. But also with COVID, it was actually easier with online meetings. And this developer has kept up with information going to the neighbors regarding the construction. But the primary meetings, the initial meetings, provided all sorts of information about who's going to live there, what it's going to be like, what it's going to look like, and what income level. And it's going to be any income level you are under a certain level. So every single unit is going to be affordable and subsidized. And while there were, some people are very concerned about who's going to live there and what it's going to be like. But the fact is, I really think that the more information you can get out to people, the better. And these are people who all live in single family homes. This is on Howard. So everybody on the south side of Dobson
2 minutes.
are facing this, are going to be, backing up to this building, and it's all affordable. So I do,
2
I
minutes.
hear what Darlene is saying. It has to do with the relationship between the building and the development and who's living there. And
2 minutes.
I think it's really important that you know what you're doing when you build something like this.
Thank you, Alderman Rainey. Devon Reed.
Yes, I just want to, chime in on the issue of affordable housing because it's something that's near and dear to me as someone who experienced homelessness in my youth. And when we look at affordable housing and how we can support affordable housing, one, creating affordability throughout the city of Evanston is extremely important. And so I think we need to allow for multifamily units within our R1 districts and expand multifamily unit to our R1 districts so we can increase affordability in the 6th and 7th ward. I think it's important to look at our parking requirements to reduce the cost of development, and especially further evaluate that, especially in TOD area, transit-oriented development areas, places that are near public transit and train lines. But most importantly, I think we need to get more money to provide affordable housing in the city. And how do we do that? Well, my office, when we were looking to support participatory budgeting, particularly around affordable housing dollars, we met with David Riefman's office in the Chicago Department of Planning, and we called Toronto and other places who are leading on creating funds for affordable housing. And what we saw is that Chicago, this gets a little wonky, so sorry folks, but for things like floor area ratio bonuses, for FAR bonuses, and for other public benefits that we typically give out in Evanston, Chicago charges a rate for that and then puts that money toward affordable housing. I think it's time for us to completely reevaluate how we process developments when we're getting some of our closing fees and when we are, how much we're charging for bonuses, or whether we are or are not charging bonuses. I'm sorry, charging for like floor area
2 minutes.
bonuses. It's very important that we work on that to provide more funding for affordable housing.
I just have one very short comment. Can I just make one really short one?
Thank you.
I know we're way over. This is starting to feel like a city council meeting. Honestly, the number one thing I think we need to do as far as affordable housing goes is have an affordable housing plan. We don't have one right now for the city. There was an affordable housing steering committee that hasn't met since probably, I want to say March. And so we haven't even measured, don't have any kind of, goals as far as what we need in terms of what types of units. There's been units that have been built, but they're all tiny. They're all like studios and 1-bedrooms, and we need more family housing. And there's like 39 affordable units recently, and there's hundreds of people on the waiting list. So there is really no goal. There's no measurable goals. And as I think I've heard Devon say, you need to measure it in order to care about it. So that's all.
The problem with affordable housing is very expensive to build. It is not affordable.
So I'd like to just jump in here just for a second and say, just because the project that we're talking about with How is very close to me as well. And again, in addressing exactly what the pressing need is affordable housing would be fine if that was what we were doing. We were sold in the very first meetings a bill of goods that this was supposed to take care of Evanston's affordable housing. And while I understand that, yes, because of partially because it was a community or a county grant and some other things that had to go into it, that it turned out that it could not be just to solve Evanston's homeless problem. There had to be a waiting list that was exhausted, that was region wide and that kind of thing. But don't, number one, don't present it to us as that if that's not what it is. And number two, when you say that you have mechanisms in place in order to be able to combat developers that don't want to comply with affordable housing, don't make the fine so minimal that they would rather pay the fine than build affordable housing in their developments. That's all I had to say about it.
Okay, that was obviously a great question. Any of the other candidates who haven't spoken on this question want to chime in? Jonathan?
Yeah, as long as we're on the topic of affordable housing, and it's been mentioned that folks don't want affordable housing in their backyard, the not in my backyard or NIMBY argument, but that may be true for multi-family units. But I would like to point out that the city has done some work to accessory dwelling units to be developed as, if not 60% AMI affordable housing, then at least more reasonably priced housing. And there are a number of residents around town who are already literally putting these units in their backyard. And the potential exists for dozens, if not scores, more of these projects around the community. I'd do it in my backyard if it was big enough to have a garage, but it's not.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. Matt Mitchell, I don't think you've responded to this. Did you have any input?
Sure, I'll try to go just quickly. I would love to see, especially in the 8th Ward, non-traditional models of development, partnering with nonprofits whose goal is affordable housing, whose goal is not the traditional landlord-tenant relationship where the landlord owns the property and tries to gain as much profit from that as possible. There's good landlords and bad landlords. And as a city, I think we can incentivize good landlord practices and disincentivize bad landlord practices. But what I'm really interested in is new models of nonprofits acting as that landlord role outside of a kind of traditional capitalistic landlord model. That's it.
Thank you, Matt. Wow, I feel like we've learned quite a bit on how each candidate feels about some very important issues that are going on in the city. Thank you all for staying over. We're at 8:44, so we're about 15 minutes over, and I want to respect everyone's evening, your time with your family and getting your rest, and our candidates need to get their rest and get up and fight another day. So we're going to end, but I do want everyone to please get in touch with these candidates, get more information about how they feel on all these different issues and concerns that are going on in Evanston. Please stay engaged. They will all be on other forums, so please get on social media, get on the internet and find out where the next forum is going to be. We will be having another one here, Evanston Live TV, for District 65 candidates, as well as the 5th Ward, January 21st. District 65 is January 20th. The race is already heated, and we've got some strong candidates, some very strong candidates with some strong views. And I respect everyone here, and thank you so much for your time. We'll probably have everyone back as the race goes on. It's getting intense, and I think it's going to be a really good race. And thank you all so much for your time. Thank you so much to our sponsors, Four Sons, Fruit Juice, Fresh Juice. I keep saying fruit juice. Four Sons Fresh Juice for sponsoring us today. And please, Gabi, please get well. And thank you to Jared Davis of the Black Professional Networking Group here in Evanston. Thank you so much for sponsoring us today. And thank you so much to all of the candidates. I have respect for each and every one of you. Your different views, I've actually learned more today. And I hope the residents have too. Thank you to the residents who have joined us. Please continue to support and stay engaged and stay tuned here at Evanston Live TV. And thank you all so much. Have a great.
Thank you very much, Malika. Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you, Malika.
Thank you, Malika. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Malika.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, Lauren, she might have just saved your ass.
Malika, I reached out to you on Facebook. So when you get a chance, check your messages.
Oh, will do. Will do.
Okay, bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was awesome. I'll call you, Malika.
Okay. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you, Malika, and thank you, Nicole, for running the board. Appreciate it.
Sergeant
You
at
guys.
Arms. Huh?